In Clash Royale, the difference between a low, medium, and high-tier player isn't strictly defined by a single metric, but rather a combination of factors, including trophy count, card levels, game knowledge, and strategic execution. So, here's a general breakdown. Low-tier players are typically found in the lower arenas, or maybe struggling to consistently climb into higher leagues on the trophy road. When it comes to card levels, you'll often see uneven progress. Some cards are, significantly underleveled for their current arena, while others might be overleveled, especially those few meta cards, but without really understanding how they work together. And for deck building, well, decks often lack synergy. It's pretty common to see a bunch of individually strong cards just thrown together without much thought for how they interact. The so-called mid-ladder menace archetypes are, players who are prone to using popular individually powerful cards like Mega Knight, Electro Giant, or Witch, but often without proper support or a good understanding of their weaknesses. Poor elixir management is also a big issue here. They frequently overcommit elixir on offense or defense, which, honestly, just leaves them unable to defend against the next push. When it comes to gameplay, low-tier players tend to play pretty reactively. They often make impulsive moves in response to their opponent without really anticipating or setting up their own pushes. Card placement can be suboptimal too, leading to units being easily countered or not getting the full value from splash damage or ranged attacks. There's also, limited knowledge of common card interactions, counter pushes, and how to take advantage of elixir trades. And yeah, they often miss out on opportunities to gain an elixir advantage. Alright, so the mid-tier player is usually found hanging out somewhere in the middle to higher arenas, or maybe bouncing around in the lower leagues of Path of Legends. This is what people often call the mid-ladder range. Think something like 5,000 to 7,000 trophies, or just starting out in Path of Legends. When it comes to card levels, these players generally have more consistent upgrades that match their arena, and hey, they might even have a few maxed out cards here and there. Now, let's talk about deck building. At this stage, players start to get the hang of basic card synergies and try to put together decks that actually make sense. They're aware of meta decks, but honestly, might still have a tough time adapting them perfectly, or really understanding what makes those decks so strong. You might see them using those classic mid-ladder cards, but with a bit more intention behind it. The decks are usually more balanced, with a mix of offensive and defensive options, though, yeah, there can still be some pretty obvious weaknesses. On the gameplay side, elixir management definitely improves, but mistakes can still happen. Card placement's getting better too, but timing and predicting those counterattacks from opponents can still be a challenge. As for strategy, these players start to understand the basics of both defensive and offensive moves, like kiting enemy troops or punishing when someone overcommits on elixir. They're beginning to recognize common deck archetypes and will try to adjust their playstyle. But, consistency isn't always there yet. Alright, so, when we talk about high-tier players, we're looking at folks who are consistently in the higher leagues of Path of Legends, often pushing for those top global or local leaderboards. These players usually have fully maxed out decks, like level 14 or 15, or they're super close to that, and they really get why it's important to upgrade specific cards for their chosen archetypes. When it comes to deck building, they craft decks with deep synergy, clear win conditions, and strong defensive cycles. Now, meta mastery is a big deal at this level. High-tier players have a deep understanding of the current meta, which means they know all about specific card interactions, popular deck archetypes, and the best counter strategies out there. They're able to adapt their decks, or even create off-meta decks that take advantage of weaknesses in the current meta. Every card in their deck serves a real purpose, and the whole deck is designed to handle a wide range of matchups. When it comes to gameplay, these players are just on another level. They manage their elixir flawlessly, always looking for positive elixir trades and knowing exactly when to make aggressive pushes or cycle their cards. Their card placements are nearly perfect. So, they get the most value possible from every troop, spell, and building. That means things like precise kiting, maximizing splash value, and making smart defensive placements to protect their towers. Plus, they're always anticipating their opponent's plays, making those predictive moves, like dropping a fireball right where they expect a minion horde or goblin barrel to land. So, adaptability is key here. A skilled player can quickly identify an opponent's deck and adapt their strategy on the fly, knowing the optimal response to almost any threat. And, there's also psychological play, using emotes, bait, and timing to throw off opponents or, force them into making mistakes. Plus, they really understand how to consistently get damage on towers with their chosen win condition, often finding creative ways to break through defenses. In essence, the progression from low to high tier in Clash Royale is a journey of increasing game knowledge, strategic depth, and, honestly, flawless execution. It moves from simply playing cards to understanding the intricate dance of elixir trades, card cycles, and, even psychological warfare. Reaching a high tier in Clash Royale is a highly individual journey, influenced by several factors. For many, reaching Ultimate Champion, League 10 in Path of Legends is considered a significant achievement and a marker of high-tier play. But truly high-tier might mean consistently placing in the top 1,000 globally, or even higher, which, let's be real, often borders on professional play. Some players just have a natural aptitude for strategy games and pick up concepts really quickly. But, actively studying card interactions, meta decks, pro player replays, and always analyzing your own mistakes is super important. Honestly, this is probably the biggest thing that sets players apart. And of course, consistent practice is key. It's how you build muscle memory, recognize patterns, and just get better at reacting in the moment. To compete at the very highest levels, having a fully maxed out deck, like level 14 or 15, is pretty much a must. For free-to-play players, this can take a ton of time, or you might end up spending money to speed things up. Gathering enough gold and cards to upgrade a whole deck takes time, even if you play regularly and join all the events. And if you're just playing casually, maybe a few times a week, it's honestly going to take a really long time, if you ever get there at all, to reach those top tiers. Players who consistently hit Ultimate Champion or higher usually dedicate a lot of time, sometimes hours every day, especially when it's season push time. But, daily practice, even if it's just for a shorter amount of time, is generally way more effective than those long, infrequent grind sessions. So, reaching Ultimate Champion, well, it's definitely a big milestone. For a new and dedicated free-to-play player, this could take anywhere from 6 months to over a year of consistent, focused play. The time it takes really depends on how quickly you can level up a viable deck and, honestly, how effectively you learn along the way. Now, for an experienced player with maxed cards, it might only take a few days or maybe a week of concentrated effort at the start or end of a season to climb through the path of legends, assuming they keep up a high win rate. Actually, many top players reach Ultimate Champion within just a few hours or a couple of days when a new season starts. On the other hand, some folks report taking years just to get out of what's called mid-ladder. That's the transition from mid-tier to higher tier, mostly because of inconsistent play, not sticking with one deck, or just not actively learning. It's a journey, for sure. Reaching the top leaderboards, like the top 1000 or pro level, is a whole different beast, honestly. It's not just about hitting Ultimate Champion, but then, continually pushing beyond that and actually competing against the best players in the world. This often takes years of dedicated play, usually many hours every single day, a deep understanding of every matchup, and sometimes even coaching or being part of a competitive team. A lot of professional players have been grinding since the game's early days. Now, there are a few things that can really speed up your progress. First, focusing on one or maybe two decks. Mastering specific deck archetypes helps you learn all their interactions and matchups way faster. Also, watching pro players or streamers is super helpful, since learning from the best gives you a sense of advanced strategies and placements. And yeah, analyzing your own replays, spotting mistakes, and finding areas to improve is absolutely crucial. Playing with a strong clan is another big one. Getting advice, practicing with skilled players, and taking part in clan wars can really accelerate your learning. And, well, spending money, going the pay-to-win route. While it's not necessary, it can definitely speed up card leveling, which lets you compete at higher levels a lot sooner. So, in summary, there's really no fixed timeline for this. It's a blend of raw skill, dedication to improvement, and the time you put into grinding out games and leveling up your cards. If you found these tips helpful, make sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below with your own strategies or questions. Stay tuned for more Clash Royale tips and strategies.